Do we have any debate? Right, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Aye. All those against? No, thank you. Carried.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming down so quickly.
Yes.
I'm leaving so quickly.
Okay, so now we have item 12, endorsement of the Christchurch economic ambition. And your timing is impeccable.
That's good. Hi, everybody. How are you?
Good, thank you.
So do you want me to say something or do you just want to... Do you want me to talk?
Yes, fire away.
So look, first of all, thanks for having us back. It was only a fortnight ago that we came in to talk to you about this, and you'll be aware that this was the third briefing that we've given you on the economic ambition. And since the first one a year ago, we've taken on board a lot of feedback. It was the majority of the evidence gathering phase, really, including your feedback, including feedback from other stakeholders. I've got a really extensive list of stakeholders happy to share with you, and council staff during the public consultation period earlier this year. I'm really pleased to tell you that our board approved the ambition on Friday, which is great. So we're now here seeking your endorsement. As you may recall from our discussion about how we're wanting to implement the ambition, our strategy is to seek endorsement from many of our city agencies and private sector as a way of building momentum for the direction of the ambition. And as our key shareholder and as the setter of direction for CCOs and for the city, then your endorsement is the most important. So that's why it's the first that we're seeking. You have more levers to implement and a broader reach into the community than Christchurch NZ does. This is a strategy that covers more than what Christchurch NZ does. So we're looking for your endorsement today. And this is the start of the work, really. This is the beginning of us really getting stuck into it. So I'm really open to any questions.
Okay, has anyone got any questions? Councillor Scandrett.
Yeah, look, thank you. And it's a great vision without question. So it's fantastic. But as you will be aware, with a few comments beforehand, we are going into economic shallow water, so to speak. And one of the key things for me is that we are going to have to share the burden with all our partners and friends, etc. So I'm just hoping that with this vision that everybody is aware of that. So we are your number one shareholder, etc. But we are we have got a lot of responsibilities, and the paper is thin. So
Yeah,
your thinking on that?
So absolutely noted. We have used this strategic framework along with the other two key city strategic frameworks, which is the city brand positioning and the destination management plans, which we're going to have a briefing on later today, to deliver or to develop our Christchurch NZ strategy. Yep. So how quickly and at what scale we can deliver that will depend on some of the decisions that we get guidance on from you. But what this does is set a direction and a light on the hill in order to make sure that we are all pointing in the same direction.
Well, I'm certainly looking forward to sharing the joy of moving forward with our other partners. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Johansson.
Yeah, thanks. Just wanted to chase up what had happened with the request at the informal yesterday. Has there been any update or information back?
So those questions were circulated to...
Yep, so really happy to talk about those. So we were asked for two potential amendments. So the first is about requesting that we include a priority to address the impact of unaffordable housing on increasing intergenerational inequity. We've been in conversation with the team here, the executive team at council and ourselves this morning, and I think we all agree that this is probably not the right place to put that. So affordable and sufficient housing availability is super important to support people that live and work here. It's a really complex work stream in its own right, and that is being focused on as part of the Greater Christchurch Spatial Plan Implementation Programme. The second amendment, which is around requesting clear goals that are measurable, that monitor the impact of the economic ambition on addressing and reducing inequality. We think that's really helpful feedback. And actually, even since we briefed you 2 weeks ago, we've already started work on how we can make sure that we incorporate that type of measure into what we do in this space.
The other question was kind of just in our report, and I don't know if this is more a question for council staff or Christchurch NZ, but we're not given any response to the feedback that we've provided in the briefings. There's no rationale, there's no amendments that we can see visibly that have been made. Is there a record of the feedback that we gave and what's happened to it? And if so, where do we find that? Or if not, what's the best way for us to make amendments?
So do you mean the feedback that you gave at the briefing 2 weeks ago, or the briefing that you've given at the previous briefings?
You know, in general, obviously specifically the briefing 2 weeks ago, but it's just we're being asked to endorse something where we haven't seen what the response has been to the feedback we've given previously. And I was also just curious of it being publicly consulted. I know you've engaged with stakeholders,
Yep.
but it was unclear about whether there'd been any public
So
consultation.
let me take those two in turn. The first one is that actually there are no substantive changes from the version that you saw 2 weeks ago, because the feedback that we got in the session, I felt that we were able to answer with the existing version. So the version that you saw 2 weeks ago is essentially the same. There are a couple of very, very minor wording changes, like maybe two. More than happy to share those with you, but they're very, very small. In terms of public consultation, absolutely. So we sent the draft document directly to 150 stakeholders and partner organisations, and we communicated to thousands of organisations via our comms. We were made to the public on the CNZ website. So it's difficult with things like this because engaging the public is challenging. It's not as emotive as, say, a city narrative or a city brand, where people probably respond in greater numbers. But absolutely, it has been available for anyone to comment on throughout the process.
So where are the measurable goals in here?
So we still don't have those. That's the next stage, is when we've got endorsement today and approval, which literally we got on Friday from our board. The next step is to work out how we measure it and then how we keep that really visible and alive, so that everyone that's signed on to it can actually see how we're tracking against it. It's a really important part.
So we have got a set of measures that we've already got a baseline for that will show will give us indicator measures rather than explicit goals around whether we're moving in the right direction or not, and we'll put those together with this on the website when we release it and continue to monitor those. There are already 5, I would say, that relate to inequity and addressing or lifting the wages for the lower productive sectors, so that the people who are struggling the most are moving in the right direction. And we've taken on board the comments that we received last week, and I've instructed my economic analyst to broaden the net and see if there's anything else we could include in that.
It's just a final question from me, sorry for taking up the time, but it's hard when we get late supplementaries as well, because we don't get a lot of time. But I mean, this morning we heard from someone who works with Housing First and homelessness in the city, and we've got a growing increase in homelessness and a huge challenge with how we deal with that. And there was a kind of a call for council to, involve our people, as they were described, in what we do as a city. And I guess I'm still sort of struggling to understand, given the impact that housing affordability has on people's well-being in terms of economic prosperity, why we don't have more of a focus on that, and the fact that the strategies or the ambition's kind of silent on housing.
I think we've.
I'm just trying to understand why you wouldn't have something in here about housing, given its impact,
Ellie's answered that.
which is what? It's someone else's job. Is that?
We have our housing trust. I mean,
There's the Greater Christchurch plan and I think it's called the housing strategy or the.
Yeah, and if I may add, what you're trying to achieve is better achieved in other documents, and we are doing stuff jointly through projects such as the Sydenham Yard project, where we are looking at housing affordability. There are projects in our pipeline with Christchurch NZ that also address housing affordability, and while we don't necessarily call out key worker housing as part of that, that is in the minds of those involved in those. And plus we're working with other partners in that area. So Councillor, your concerns are noted, but we're already actioning them, and those are key points that are also in other documents.
Just to pick up the point on the supplementary agenda, we were really clear. The board had to endorse and approve the document before it could come to us. We made that, we were comfortable with that, and then released it as soon as we could once the board meeting had met, which was only on Friday.
Yeah, Nick came running out of the meeting to release it.
But in terms of the community,
And this had been briefed
may
clearly
have,
as well.
in terms of the public who may have wanted to make deputations, They get 1 day's notice that this is on our agenda. So I don't know why it couldn't have waited for the next regular council meeting, but I guess that's a thing we need to decide as councillors around democracy and people being aware of
Well,
stuff,
no,
right?
sorry. I mean, the reality is, Phil, we had a vote on accepting the agendas, and in a democracy, we voted to accept them. So you might not like it, but it's not helpful to hold the meeting up like this with something that you didn't get your way on. So I think we should just move on.
Thank you. Right, Councillor Scandrett.
Yeah, look, just to divert from CNZ, with regards to housing, could we at some stage in this organisation, Florence has been the latest city in the world to ban short-term stay accommodation in its centre purely because it unbalances the balance of affordability for workers, etc. There have been some smaller communities globally that have done the same. They have high visitor want, but they have higher need for people to live. So this isn't a CNZ question. This is really a bigger question because the effects on that short-term accommodation have on cities and communities is totally proven now. So could we look at, we need some factual information to make decisions and look at our future as a city, and it's not CNZ's role to do that. I think it's ours. So could we at some stage look at that and discuss it to see how we best go forward?
Councillor Scandrett, you're right, this is not a matter in relation to this item,
Yep,
and
I
we can
realise
certainly
that.
take that off stream and look at that from a perspective of an appropriate briefing at the right time.
Thank you.
Right, so thank you, Nick and Ellie. I'm happy to move this, and Councillor Goff is happy to second it. Have we got any debate? No, Councillor Johansson.
Thank you. Look, I mean, acknowledge that Christchurch NZ has done. I think it's just a frustration that we continuously come up with economic strategies, but when we look at the impact in our society and in our city, what we see is the indicators generally showing that things are going backwards for a lot of people, right? So we've got massive issues in terms of housing affordability. We've heard the impact of things like the food banks, the demand for food banks and food parcels, and we knew post earthquake and with the pandemic that those who could least afford to bear the brunt of those things were likely to be the most impacted. And so today we're being asked to sign off on an economic ambition at short notice as a late supplementary report. I can't see any reason why there needs to be an urgency to signing it off today and giving the community one day's notice versus just having it as a regular agenda item. I certainly think that, housing is something that is one of the very clear things that does deal to people's economic well-being. And so I don't know how many times asked for work to be done around that social and affordable housing space. It hasn't been progressed as a priority. It's been constantly delayed and not done. You can look back at our urban development strategy in 2007 to look at a number of measures that could have addressed some of that inequity and that economic prosperity, and yet it's just not done. And I think the economic agency that we have as a council has an incredibly important role to play around things like dealing with the affordability of housing. And, one of my colleagues has just raised the point around the impact of short-term rental visit accommodation on cities, right? There's this conflict between tourism and the impact on the impact of housing affordability for people. So, I appreciate the work that's been done on this. I still think it is really important to have some clear targets. And so, I'll put forward these amendments. Someone may second it, someone may not, but I do think that these amendments are important. And I am concerned that when we give feedback, we should have a clear record of that feedback and how it's addressed or why it's dismissed in the report that gets put in front of us, so that when we come to make decisions, we have that information.
Right, sorry. We've got Councillor Coker wants to have a wee discussion, and you, Councillor, yeah.
Can I go?
Mm-hmm. Where you go?
Yep, just waiting, I'm just checking. Yanni might say something.
Thumbs up.
I just want to support this today. I think it's really great, and I think the overall ambition for Watataki Christchurch to move towards a regenerative economy is absolutely brilliant, and I can't support that enough. So that's it.
Amendment, yeah. At the main
Okay, so thank you, Councillor Coker. Councillor Cotter, please.
I was just going to speak to the amendments, if I may, and I would actually rather support a noting item at the end of the resolution that just reiterates the wording. I think, David, you put in that you have milestones, or you have economic indicators that you will develop. So I'd just rather put a noting item at the end of that, noting that CNZ have indicators. So if you want to get some, Dawn, could you help with some wording around that, rather than supporting the amendments per se? I can't support those either.
We haven't got a seconder for the amendment yet. Not saying we haven't. Going forward. Okay. So, righto.
And I just want to thank you for the work on this. It's great, and I love it's got a very strong focus on climate change goals as well, which is really important at the moment. So
thank you. Councillor Scandrett.
Yeah, look, thank you. Thank you very much for the work you've done. Without economic ambition, we're kind of dead in the water. And I think one thing that keeps being missed, we talk about the bad things that are happening, but think of all the employment that's being created by these businesses, and that spreads throughout our economy. It helps families from all levels and all walks of life in our city. Look at Te Pai, the mayor earlier on just said you couldn't get in there for like 18 months. Look at the employment there. They're not all CEOs, they're right across the board, and so that is so important to improve our economy, especially in hard times, which I believe is still going to be here for a wee while. So I think it's a really good ambition, and we need to set that high. With regards to my comments before with regards to short-term stay, that has been totally proven with regards to hand in hand with the housing shortage. Our population hasn't suddenly exploded. What has exploded is short-term accommodation, which has been proven globally, and we've got to look at that. This is not CNZ's job. I think this is our job to and to work with the government, hand in hand with them. So thank you, it's great.
Thank you very much. So just moving right along here, we have on the screen in a very, very short time, Councillor Johansson's amendments. Have you got a seconder? Okay, we haven't got a seconder, so that will... Therefore, we will go to the main action, which is now on the screen in a minute. Okay, have we got any... We've done all the debate. Might as well put the...
Can we just... It's a noting.
Noting.
It's not a recommendation.
Yep.
It's a noting.
Yep.
Can I just check with my colleagues across the table that you are comfortable with what is written there?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. So it's gone.
Yeah, because it's just a note.
Right, now there it is down the bottom. Yeah. So what you see on the screen is what we're voting for at the moment. Councillor Henstock sitting back from the table. Councillor Coker was sitting...
Councillor Jack. It's overall strategy.
All right. Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's right. No, yep. Okay. So I'll put this motion. All those in favour? Aye. All those against? Thank you. That is carried. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Yep, the two on the board. Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.